YouTube, what's up? It's your boy Anthem Barber coming at you with an unboxing, a blade modification using the 1-minute blade setter, and I'm going to show you how to zero gap or adjust your WAHL retro T-cut cordless trimmer. Stay tuned. So in order to perform these two steps, you're going to need the 1-minute blade modifier, a screwdriver, WAHL clipper oil, and some Andis Cool Care. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at the packaging, and in my opinion, WAHL always goes above and beyond when it comes to packaging and just their overall display of their product. So once we get the cover off and open the second box, you're gonna notice right away that there's a styrofoam cutout piece, and I believe it was placed there to stop the clipper from bouncing around in the box because it's not held down very secure. So here it is. My first initial thought taking it out of the box is, wow, this feels really cheap. And the reason why I say that is it's built, I don't want to say poorly, but it's built very plasticky feeling, and it's extremely light. It's light enough to the point where I feel like if I have an accidental drop with this, that it's literally gonna break the clipper. It also feels very basic because there's not very much to the clipper other than the on and off switch. There's no light indicator for anything. It does come with a WAHL 5-star T wide blade, and that's a blade that I really love, so I'm gonna keep that blade on here, and I'm just gonna do the modifying in the blade setting. So here's your basic little pamphlet that tells you everything about your clipper. It also comes with these guards that none of us ever really use, and it comes with your standard clipper oil and little clipper brush. The charger also comes in the box as well, and my first initial thought of the charger is the same thing I thought with the clipper. Man, this feels cheap. It's made with the same exact plastic that the clipper's made of, so it has that really lightweight feeling, and I feel like if this drops, it's gonna shatter. Luckily, it does have those 4 little rubber pads at the bottom to help secure it at your station. Right here, you can see that the cord doesn't detach from the charging base, meaning you can't detach it from there and charge it. The only way you could charge it is on the charge stand, and just like the clipper, the charge stand doesn't have any light indicator that the clipper's being charged. So once we get the blade cover off, you're gonna notice that there's 2 screws on this side, and what you're gonna want to do is remove those screws. Make sure that you're using a screwdriver that fits the screws so you don't strip them. Once you take them off, neatly place them to the side because you're gonna need those and you don't want to misplace those. So now that we got our screws off and placed to the side, we're now gonna remove the blades from the clipper. So on this side of the blade, you're gonna notice that there's 2 screws, and these screws are actually the same size as the screws that we just removed, only they look smaller. But this time we're not trying to completely remove the screws, we're just trying to release enough tension that we're able to separate the 2 blades from each other. So once we get the screws loose enough, we're now able to remove the blades from each other. And this is a blade that we're gonna modify. So we're gonna set the other blade to the side, and I'm gonna show you guys how to modify it using the 1-minute blade setter. So this is the 1 minute blade modifier. I believe it's by Chuco the Barber or the Rich Barber. And it's pretty dope. What it does is it tapers your blade, allowing for a sharper cut. And I really like the blade on this wall clipper opposed to like the regular T-outliner blade, because the teeth are a little deeper, and so it allows more hair to be fed through the blade. It's also very important to note that you do need to place 1 drop of clipper oil in the middle of the blade modifier. This is also very important. The Blade brand logo goes on this side, meaning that the WAHL brand logo needs to face that side of the modifier. Once you place it in, you then go side to side or back and forth, however you want to call it, and you're going to want to stay within the little guidelines of the black lines that are on each side of the modifier. Once you do that for a minute, you then take the blade off, take a look at it. It's really hard to see with the camera, and I apologize, but basically what it does is it sharpens the blade, and it basically tapers from the point back up to the thick part of the blade, and that gives that sharpness that gives you a really precise cut with the trimmer. I personally thought 1 minute didn't do it, so I'm gonna give it about another 15 seconds or so, and once I do that, I'm really comfortable with how it looks. Right here, I wanted to note that it's really important when you're done using this to clean it. Also, try to clean your blades before you use it, because you could clearly see that hair gets gunked up in there, and it might not evenly taper out your blade the way you want it to, so it's important to just keep it clean. So now that I got the blade sharp and I'm comfortable with the way that I modified it, I'm now gonna begin to neatly place everything back together. And this is where you're gonna decide whether you wanna zero gap your machine or adjust it to your liking. Me personally, I don't like to zero gap my machines, not because I'm afraid to cut anybody, but I feel like I adjust them close enough that I get a really clean cut, very low cut, but it doesn't give me hassle later when I'm trying to remove my bald guideline. So this just allows me to be hassle free later on in my cuts. So once you get the blade to where you want it set, you're gonna hold everything neatly and firm together to hold it in place, and you're gonna begin to tighten up those little screws. And when you go to tighten up the screws, you're only gonna wanna tighten them a little at a time each screw, meaning don't fully tighten one and go to the other. Slowly work it one to the other. Once you do it a little and you feel it's tightened and you know that it's exactly where you want it, just like I'm showing you here, you're gonna wanna grip it like that very tightly, and again, work those screws little by little, each one at a time, until eventually it's locked down and secure where it needs to be. And right here, I'm just trying to show you where I set my blades, and you could clearly see that it's not zero gap, but it is adjusted pretty close. Again, I like to set my machines this way because it saves me hassle later when I'm doing skin fades and things like that. So right here, you're gonna notice this little middle piece, and there's like this black plastic thing on the clipper part. You're gonna wanna neatly match those when you're placing the blade back on. I don't necessarily know why, but I do know that they need to be placed within each other for the blade to work and be secured properly. So once you get the plastic pieces to align and you get the blade back on the clipper, you're gonna start to screw the original screws back in. So this is why it was important to not misplace them, because you're gonna need them now. So once you place one in, don't firmly tighten it yet. Get it close to it, get the other one in, and then firmly grip your clipper and begin to tighten them both little by little until they're secure and firm where they need to be. So now that our blade's been modified and securely placed back on the clipper, I'm now gonna remove the plastic and finish this unboxing. So once I remove the plastic, I'm now gonna turn on the clipper. I'm gonna take my WAHL clipper oil and I'm gonna place 3 drops on the blade, 1 on each end and 1 in the center of the blade. It's really easy to overdo it with the clipper oil, so literally when I say 3 drops, that's all it takes. Now I'm gonna take my Andis Cool Care and I'm gonna spray my blades just to disinfect anything funky that might have happened to the blade when we did the modification. Now I'm gonna let you hear the machine. It may get loud. So now that I felt the trimmer turn on in my hand, it no longer feels cheap, but it feels like there's some power there. So I'm looking forward to using this. Thank you for watching. Be blessed and be a blessing. I'm out, y'all.